Well, if you're wondering why farmers are so concerned about their farm finances right now, they really just can't catch a break. It's not just because corn prices are below break even for most. It's the fact input prices are so high.
Imagine this. For over a century, America has been the undisputed king of corn. The Midwest prairies fed not just the nation, but the world, powering everything from family dinner tables to global trade routes. Corn wasn't just a crop, it was a symbol of U.S. dominance in agriculture and a backbone of rural life. But now, that crown is slipping. Contracts worth billions are collapsing overnight. Ships loaded with American corn are being turned away at foreign ports, sometimes sent back across the ocean like unwanted cargo. Farmers across Iowa, Indiana, and Illinois are staring at silos bursting with unsold grain, while debt piles higher than ever. Communities once thriving on corn are now sinking into what locals call a zombie economy. And while America struggles, something unexpected is happening just north of the border. Canada, often seen as a smaller player in the grain market, is quietly rewriting the rules. By offering clean, green, and traceable corn, Canadian farmers are securing billion-dollar deals with Asia and Europe, deals the U.S. can't even qualify for anymore. They're not just competing with the U.S., they're replacing it. So how did the world's largest corn exporter fall this fast? And how is Canada, of all nations, managing to turn crisis into opportunity? Today we uncover the fractures in America's agricultural empire and reveal how Canada staged one of the biggest food trade takeovers in modern history.
For decades, American corn was untouchable. It didn't matter whether you were in Tokyo, Mexico City, or Paris. If you wanted corn, chances were high you were buying it from the United States. But in 2025, that legacy is unraveling faster than anyone thought possible. Farmers across the Midwest are now facing something they once believed was impossible, a market that doesn't want their crop. Prices have plunged below break-even levels, dropping to around $3.50 per bushel, while costs of planting, harvesting, and shipping keep climbing higher. Imagine putting in months of back-breaking work only to sell your harvest at a loss. That's the reality across Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana, the very heart of America's so-called Corn Belt. And it's not just about numbers on a chart. Across rural America, combines worth hundreds of thousands of dollars are parked idle because running them would only deepen losses. Some farmers are listing their heavy machinery online, desperate to cover debts, while others are picking up side hustles, driving trucks, delivering packages, even working ride shares at night just to keep their families afloat. Meanwhile, the collapse has reached a humiliating peak on the international stage. In early 2025, over 2 million tons of U.S. corn shipments were flat-out rejected and sent back to New Orleans. Contracts that once guaranteed steady income were suddenly worth less than the paper they were printed on. The message from global buyers was clear: American corn is no longer worth the risk. To make matters worse, shipping bottlenecks have turned the crisis into a nightmare. Barges on the Mississippi sit stuck. Vessels at the New Orleans port are waiting weeks for clearance, and every delay shaves more money off already razor-thin margins. Farmers lose up to 27 cents per bushel just for waiting for a ship that may never even leave port. It's a slow bleed, not just of money, but of confidence. Behind the statistics are shattered lives. In towns across the Midwest, families who have grown corn for generations are facing foreclosure. Grain that was supposed to feed the world is rotting in silos. And with every passing week, the gap between what it costs to farm and what corn sells for grows wider. This isn't just a bad harvest, it's a collapse of an entire way of life. But here's the twist. While U.S. farmers watch their golden crop turn into dead weight, another player is stepping up to claim the throne.
While America's corn industry is drowning in debt, rejection, and rotting silos, something very different is happening north of the border. Canada, often overlooked in the global grain market, has quietly transformed itself into a powerhouse. And it's not doing it with volume or size. It's doing it with strategy. Over the past few years, Canadian farmers and policymakers spotted the cracks forming in the U.S. system. The overdependence on GMO crops, the lack of sustainability standards, and the rising costs of shipping through U.S. ports. Instead of waiting for disaster, Ottawa moved fast. It began building a reputation for clean, green, and traceable corn, the very qualities international buyers now demand. And the payoff has been staggering. While U.S. farmers are begging buyers to take corn off their hands, Canada has been signing multi-billion-dollar supply contracts with some of the world's biggest markets. Japan, South Korea, and even the European Union, all longtime customers of U.S. corn, are now writing checks with Canada's name on them. Why? Because Canadian corn isn't just grain, it's a premium product. Every shipment is certified through Prairie Trace blockchain tracking, a system that follows each kernel from the farm to the ship. Importers know exactly where it came from, how it was grown, and even its carbon footprint. That level of transparency has made Canadian corn as trustworthy as a Swiss watch. But Canada's edge doesn't stop there. While 92% of U.S. corn is genetically modified, instantly disqualifying it from countries that demand non-GMO grain, Canadian farmers have leaned into non-GMO and organic certifications. This has given them access to lucrative markets that Washington can't even enter anymore. In fact, Canada is commanding premiums of 20% or more per bushel compared to U.S. offers. In other words, they're earning more money for selling less corn simply because they're meeting global standards the U.S. ignored. The shift has been so dramatic that in global trade circles, analysts now describe Canada's grain sector as a silent coup. While the U.S. was busy fighting tariff wars and imposing red tape, Canada quietly captured the trust and the wallets of the world's most profitable buyers. And here's the kicker. These deals aren't short-term wins. Many are multi-year contracts, locking in Canada as a primary supplier for years to come. That means even if the U.S. manages to fix its corn problems tomorrow, the buyers they lost won't be coming back anytime soon. The balance of power in global agriculture is tilting, and Canada is no longer just America's polite neighbor in the north. It's becoming the new standard-bearer for what the world wants in food: sustainable, transparent, and premium. But this wasn't just luck. The real turning point came when global import standards themselves began to change. For decades, buying corn was simple. You looked for the lowest price and the biggest supply, and that usually meant American corn. But in 2025, the rules of the game have changed. Today's importers aren't just buying grain, they're buying trust, reputation, and compliance with strict new standards. And this is where the U.S. has fallen hopelessly behind. The turning point came when countries started demanding three things: clean, green, and traceable food. It wasn't just about filling silos anymore. It was about proving that every kernel was safe, sustainable, and low carbon. Suddenly, GMO-heavy, pesticide-laden U.S. corn, which once fed the world, became a red flag for buyers. Mexico was the first domino to fall. In early 2025, it officially banned GMO corn imports, citing health and environmental risks. At first, Washington dismissed it as political posturing. But the shock came when Asia and Europe copied Mexico's policy almost overnight. Japan, South Korea, and the European Union rewrote their contracts, demanding non-GMO, low-carbon corn only. That instantly cut out the United States, where 92% of corn acreage is genetically modified. Meanwhile, the U.S. government didn't adapt. Instead, it doubled down on tariffs, inspections, and outdated systems.
Exporters faced higher fees, slower testing, and longer delays. Every shipment required costly green certificates, and many failed the stricter residue and carbon tests. Buyers grew frustrated. Why pay more for slower deliveries that don't even meet your standards? Canada, however, was ready. Ottawa had already invested in blockchain tracking systems that let buyers see exactly where their corn came from, how it was grown, and its environmental footprint. Importers could pull up a digital record that proved every shipment was non-GMO, low-carbon, and fully traceable. In a world shifting toward climate-conscious trade, this wasn't just corn, it was compliance made simple. And here's the kicker. Buyers were willing to pay more for it. Canadian corn began selling at 20 to 30% higher prices than U.S. offers, yet global importers didn't hesitate. Why? Because in their eyes, American corn had become a liability. Contracts with the U.S. carried the risk of rejection, delays, or outright bans. Contracts with Canada carried assurance, speed, and reputation. This global reset is bigger than just corn. What we're seeing is the emergence of a new standard for agriculture worldwide. If your grain isn't green, if it isn't traceable, and if it isn't free of genetic modification, you're out of the running. For the first time in modern history, buyers are choosing values and standards over price. And that shift is devastating rural America, because while the U.S. struggles to clear even basic hurdles, Canada has built its brand as the safe, sustainable supplier of the future. The more the world doubles down on these standards, the deeper America falls into the red zone. But the tragedy isn't just on the global stage. The real cost of this collapse is being felt in small towns across the Midwest, where entire communities are unraveling under the weight of unsold corn and lost income.
What we've uncovered today isn't just about corn shipments being turned away at ports. It's about something much bigger, a global reset in how food is traded, valued, and controlled. Corn was once America's crown jewel, but now it's Canada waving the flag at billion-dollar trade tables. And here's the twist. This isn't just a story about farming. It's about geopolitics. When Canada locks in Asia and Europe with premium contracts, that's not just profit, it's influence. It means Ottawa gets a louder voice in global trade talks. It means buyers trust Canada more than the U.S. to deliver the future of food. And it means America's Farm Belt, once its greatest strength, could become its greatest liability. But remember, nothing in global trade lasts forever. Policies can shift, alliances can change, and industries can reinvent themselves. The real question is, will the United States make the painful changes needed to reclaim its agricultural power? Or has the torch truly passed north of the border? Because the collapse of corn might just be the first domino. Soy, beef, dairy, all of them are next in line. And if America loses them too, then the story isn't just about farm towns in Iowa. It's about the decline of American power itself. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think Washington will finally wake up and adapt? Or is Canada about to dominate food markets for the next decade? Drop your thoughts below, because this story is far from over. And if you want to stay ahead of the curve on these global economic shifts, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell, because the next chapter in this battle for food dominance might shock you even more.